Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another game review, and this is for a review. Admittedly, it's a late one. The original came out about 7 years ago, and part 2 with it coming out tomorrow night, actually. Well, tomorrow morning, technically tonight at midnight. I thought it'd be the perfect time to finally talk about the original game, the masterpiece known as The Last of Us. And of course, you can tell by the title of the video or the thumbnail, I'm not alone on this one. He was with me on my review of Dark Pictures Man of Medan, and that is my buddy Mr. Garrison. Mr. Garrison, how you doing, buddy?
Once this particular idea was talked about, this was just an offer I could not refuse. I had to ask this guy. I had to pay this motherfucker to get me on this so I can talk about this game with, because this game is a personal, I emphasize it, it is a personal favorite of mine that I absolutely love to bits and pieces. The Last of Us is a tour de force masterpiece of a video game.
I agree. It's a piece of art. It's a game that even if there's a lot of people out there that have the statements of games can't be considered an art form, there are a couple of games out there that would show them, and this is one of those games. Now, before we move on to everything that we liked and didn't like, let's talk about the plot really quick of the game. So, The Last of Us takes place in this reality where there is this fungi that, if you look it up in the real world, it actually infects insects, and it changes up their brain, and it leaves them with this fungi that kills them, essentially. And in this world, this fungi, he's evolved to infect humans, and it's gotten to the point where it's a more realistic zombie apocalypse. And you play as Joel, who is voiced by Troy Baker, who is an absolute gem, if you ask me, in the voice acting world. And after a very traumatic event, I don't want to spoil it for you guys in case if you haven't played it, but if you haven't, what the hell are you doing, by the way? You should have already played this game. After a certain event happens, he basically goes on to live as more of just a hard-edged man that just only cares about survival at this point, until one day when him and his friend Tess, who have had a relationship in the past that's been hinted, they come across a person that wants them to smuggle a girl named Ellie to a group known as the Fireflies, because there is a chance that this girl could cure the infection. And at that point, that's all I'm going to say in terms of the plot, because this game, I'm telling you guys, in terms of plot, this is a ride. It is a very deep-hitting, emotional roller coaster of a ride. It's a character study more than anything, if you ask me. These two people of essentially father and daughter going across this more realistic, grounded in reality zombie apocalypse starting out. Gary, if you'd like to add on a couple of things.
Here's what I can say about this particular plot. It may sound like a basic title, a basic story, but here's the thing, though. This game goes a long way, and yes, the game itself is quite sad and it is depressing, but all for the right reasons. This is a game that wants to hit you with emotions. This is a game that wants you to feel down. This is a game that wants you to feel more appreciative with more surroundings, and gives you more of a what-if scenario of if something like this actually did happen, especially with current situations going on right now. But as a prime example, if there was like a legit zombie apocalypse, how would a person survive? How would they connect with one another? And exactly what would they do to survive within a post-apocalyptic scene like this? And the connection that travels a long way between Joel and Ellie is just something really immaculate. Continuing on with between Joel and Ellie. Now, this was their focus is the main key throughout this whole entire game.
Yeah.
Now, the connection between the two, between both Joel and Ellie, it starts off rough. It starts off connection. They start hating each other. But here's the thing, though. This is where in video games, and this is one thing I love seeing, it's where you bring in a developmental process. A developmental process, bring it into a game where you have two characters who can't get along with each other, but once they explain their background sides of who they are, and once they get to know each other more and more, not only learning, but accepting their backgrounds, especially learning their weaks and strengths of exactly what is to bring them closer together, especially with the traumatic events that both of them go through.
Correct.
Without the current events, their connection just grows stronger than ever, to where it goes from being complete strangers to a legit father-daughter connection.
And not just the traumatic, but just everything that they go through as they go from coast to coast, especially the things that Ellie goes through that involves a character named David. If you guys haven't played it, I'm telling you, that is a scene. I have played this game 3 times, and one of my biggest criticisms, which I'll get into a little bit, was I thought the game didn't have any replay value, and I was dead wrong on that part. Because there's a part that involved Ellie and David that all 3 times I played this game, it breaks me down every time I play it.
Technically about this game is that I thought the same thing at first, that there was no replay value, but here's the thing. After playing on my second go through to get prepared for as a reminder of what this game's about, but leading up to this sequel. But here's the thing though, this game itself, it gives you more specific things from your first playthrough. The game gives you a lot more details and a lot more things that you weren't aware of on your first playthrough about what transpires within all the characters and how you play it throughout the whole entire process. So,
I agree. When it comes to characters, the characters of Henry and his little brother, that's another part of the game that, oh my god, the payoff, the depressing payoff of that. I remember when I first played the game, or no, the second playthrough of it, I was like, oh, I had to remember those guys. And then right as everything comes to it, I just thought, oh shit, that's right.
This was one of those sequences in the video game where I was very, very, let's just say, not so remembering about, because this was just one of the things I didn't focus about my first go around. But after focusing and studying the connection between the two a lot more, there is a bit of a relation going on between the two. But the difference is that with both Henry and Sam, their survival is different, but you can see a correlation. That's a big word right there. Correlation between the two, between both Joel and Ellie, how they're connecting, along with Henry and Sam. But here's the thing, though. Here's one thing I managed to pick up in this game with that really signified Henry and Sam as a, I wouldn't say metaphor, but more as a symbol.
I can see that, yeah.
Keep a close eye to the ones you are close with to survive, because if something happens to that person, it's game over.
I agree. I mean, and it showed clearly with Joel in the beginning scene of the game, which is one of the most emotionally impactful 15 minutes you'll ever play in a video game. If you guys don't shed a single tear in this, I don't know what to say.
That scene alone is just heartbreaking. The whole entire opening sequence, it's just a big emotional roller coaster ride that gets you in. But once you see what happens later as that whole opening sequence happens, it just hits you in the heart that you are in for not only an emotional ride, but something that's going to be very, very, I wouldn't say uplifting, but more of a journey.
Something that you mentioned earlier with the connections, my favorite aspect of the game, I mean, you know me, Gary. I mean, the two of us, we love survival horror games. We love that stuff so much.
I do enjoy good horror.
But the thing that I think we can both agree on this, I think our favorite aspect of the game is not the stealth parts, although the stealth parts are a lot of fun, but it's really the more quieter moments with Joel and Ellie, like the
I believe that's the main course that everyone seems to really enjoy with the game, is how those two really seem to connect.
Yeah, because there's many small moments between the stealth missions in which Joel and Ellie have a conversation about what Joel did in his past life or what Ellie did in her past life, which, by the way, speaking of past life, we will go into the DLC left behind a little bit later on, so don't worry about that. The much more quieter moments in which they're just talking about how they'll get through this world and what will happen after everything's done. Stuff like that hit me harder. Well, not as hard as the more deeply emotional parts where the game just punches you in the gut, but the conversations that they have were some of my favorite moments in the game itself.
Especially with one scene, let's just say it was the third sequence to where I don't want to go into too much, but let's say it's where Joel rescues Ellie.
Oh god,
that fucking broke my heart so goddamn hard, because the thing is that knowing from Joel's connection after what transpired within the opening act, it just, for me personally, saw a flashback in him that just gave him an emotional ride of exactly of being that father figure that not only Ellie needed, but that fatherhood that he, well, I think you get the idea.
Yeah, I know that you're not as big of a graphics guy as I am, Gary, but this is a game that still 7 years later, it holds up beautifully. Now, I have a PS4 Pro, which I know you'll be like, why are you talking about the PS4 Pro at this point? But I'm telling you, the enhancements on a Pro are absolutely astounding. But on the PS4, the differences are actually, they're pretty significant. The lighting details are amazing. The colors stand out so much more. And you can either play this in 60 frames per second, at 1080p or at a much higher resolution, or you can play this at a targeted 4K resolution, to which any one of these look amazing on your TV, by the way, but that's just something I wanted to mention real quick.
Just to sum it up of how I feel in terms of the remaster alone, despite what you say about the PS3 and the remaster of the PS4 in terms of the whole graphic design, the whole visual presentation,
Yeah.
it's still a stunning game. It has that beautiful, beautiful post-apocalyptic scenery with the nature itself, how the entire wilderness is taking over the city, growing different trees, plants. Here's the thing, though. Now, a specific part of the game that I thought was absolutely beautiful was the whole entire college sequence with that sunset peeking down.
Oh, yeah, that was beautiful. I agree.
Beautiful scenery. The whole art design is just something very immaculate to see. Very calm, very peaceful, and very elegant. I really love how the landscape alone plays that little factor. See, it's little things like that within a game like this is what you pick up that really just hits you and just brings you back some memories and a lot of new things that you weren't aware of beforehand. That's one of them. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something within the game itself.
Sure, yeah.
The gameplay itself. Now,
yes, the gameplay is great.
Here's one thing, other than the fact that it is a stealth game where not only instead of like having a shootout, but we really complete the whole game by stealth. It's all about timing, planning, placement. Another thing in terms of that particular element of placement and planning is crafting. Folks,
yes,
crafting is the number one, and I say this plurally. Crafting is your number one best friend in this game.
It is. It's really going to be your best friend against everything. It'll save your ass on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Now, the guns and everything, you can use guns, but the ammunition is very scattered throughout the premise. Now, this is one thing about the game that is really good. No matter what you do, this is a game that I personally say you got to take your time with. Because the thing is, it's a big open world in terms of the story itself and where you're going to and the destination that you were trying to get to. But here's the thing. You have to explore each and every single little area. The littlest, little areas in this whole entire game, you have to inspect and find things, because the thing is, the more items you find, the better chances that you get to craft certain weapons, certain bombs, certain traps to not only make your game experience a little bit more easier when it comes to the combat in each action sequence, but it'll make your life a lot simpler. It's the best crafting that I played.
I can see that, and something that you mentioned earlier. Now, you can either go guns out, all guns out, or stealth, although it's probably not wise that you go all guns out, because if you do so, let me just say this, the aiming of the game goes for a more realistic factor, which the way they do in this game is absolutely brilliant, because not only is it, I feel like it adds to the tension when it comes to the fights against not only just the infected humans, but the clickers as well, to which the gameplay itself, this is a game where I agree with Gary, this is something we highly, and I mean highly, emphasis on the highly, recommend that you do your stealth. Because if you are good at your stealth, not only is it just way more intense, but it actually is a lot more fun to go with stealth, if you ask me. And the crafting, now, a lot of the time, you should go around and look at every nook and cranny to find any piece of rag, alcohol, scissors, so you can get literally, whether it's a one of those sharp bombs, a smoke bomb, which, to be honest, I never used a smoke bomb. I never did once.
I did once in a while.
I never used it, to be honest. I used the Molotovs a lot, especially when it came to the bigger guys. I used those blade traps, especially when it came to the bigger guys, and when there were hordes of them at one point. And of course, I used them on med packs, melee upgrades, and of course the ships, to which upgrade that ship to where you can use it twice before they break apart, because that will save you multiple times when it comes against the clickers.
No matter what it is, the little supplies can make a big difference with the game for health, weapons, traps, bombs, you name it.
Something I want to touch upon is the sound design in this game. This has some of the best sound design I have heard, especially when it comes to those damn clickers. When you come around those stealth sections, hearing those sounds, especially if you have a good sound system on, or if you have good headphones on like myself, those parts are terrifying as can be.
Those clickers alone, now, when you hear them just doing their little mumbling noise that they do, whether it's on the TV, got good speakers or headphones, the thing is that no matter what it is with their sound design, it's an illusion. The sound design is fucking with your head.
It absolutely is.
I have to give the game so much props for is that it's mentally fucking with you so you can get prepared for the enemies that's coming out to do their job and attack you. So That's one thing I really like is sound design.
I agree, and not just the sound design, but the music itself. The score for The Last of Us is
Oh my
it's a score that hits you hard, especially the opening sequence where Joel rescues Ellie, the ending sequence, and the combat sequences. Like everything just feels just. It's just the score is perfection, if you ask me. There wasn't a single part of this game where the music felt out of place. The best part about it is, even though the score feels very minimal, it still feels like a character of the game, nonetheless.
Here's the thing though with the music. I'm glad it's minimal for one reason. The music is something that needed to come out when it was necessary. Not all the time, but when it was fitting. Because the thing is, each score that was in each placement of the game, no matter what section it is, it was fitting. It was settling within the mood. And it makes you have a much more closer connection, not only audibly, but visually as well. So it is a perfect blend with how the score was able to bring the capacity within the visual presentation of what's transpiring in the game.
Before moving to the DLC, because I do want to talk about the DLC here real quick, let's score the Last of Us really quick. I think this is a perfect game. I really do. I originally had one flaw with the game when I first played. That was I didn't think it had a replay value, to which I take back. So if I'm just grading The Last of Us, I'd give this game a 10 out of 10. I find this game to be an absolute masterpiece. It's a game that anybody needs to play, and even if you don't like video games, if you like watching someone that plays video games, watch someone that will play The Last of Us for you, because this is a game that feels like not just an amazing game, but an amazing cinematic experience.
In video games, I'm very critical. There's specific things I look for, there's specific things I want, and I'm very touchy. But The Last of Us, it is a perfect game. It fits the mold exactly of what it is that you should have for a survival, post-apocalyptic thriller of a video game. This game led up to a beautiful sequence to where you are expecting a sequel, and that is a given fact. And I absolutely think this game is a fucking masterpiece. It is just pure beauty. This game is a personal 10 out of 10 for me.
Moving on from The Last of Us, let's talk about the DLC, even though the DLC is very short. The DLC I've Left Behind takes place in two different storylines, but still revolving around Ellie. So one of the storylines takes place at the time when after Joel gets injured and where Ellie's trying to find antibiotics. And then the other storyline takes place before the infection. Well, I think it's just after the infection starts to really grow, and Ellie gets a visit from her friend Riley, so they go to the mall. And this is a DLC that I initially wasn't going to play, but after getting the remaster, I just thought, you know what? I should probably play this thing, and you know what? This was a terrific DLC.
For a little prologue like this, give me a little bit more inside look, because within The Last of Us itself, the actual gameplay, you do learn a little bit some background story when Ellie talks about her friend Riley going to a mall, how she passed away, along with some background details that you didn't see in terms of the actual gameplay alone that adds to the story itself. You do see that with the DLC Left Behind. And I think alone, in terms of this, simply put it, that this was a very nice little closure, giving you answers to your mental process of what transpired through Ellie's story of what happened to her, along with her getting the medicine, etc., etc. And this DLC basically gives you the expected and unexpected in a very good way. Because when she was talking about, you were speculating exactly what transpired, giving you that visual picture of what it would have looked like, what happened, and how. And this was an amazing showcase that really answers your own questions with how Ellie and her friend Riley were able to get together for one final time before everything just went down the shitter.
No, my favorite aspect about the DLC was that actually the part where Ellie is trying to get everything for Joel, but every moment that she spent with Riley. There's a particular moment in which they're going over really bad dad jokes. That and where I believe this is the DLC where it was shown in video game history the first on-screen kiss between two females. It's a very touching friendship that turns into a really sweet romance by the end of it. Like Gary said, it gives you a nice, great conclusion to everything that happens in between Ellie trying to get the medicine for Joel, but you also finally get your answers onto, okay, who is Riley? Why did she come back for Ellie? And everything leading up to how she meets up with Marlene again about being smuggled by Joel and Tess. In terms of grading the DLC, I'd give this a 9.75 out of 10.
I give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. It was very nice.
Since Last of Us Part 2 is coming out literally tomorrow or tonight, midnight, technically, whichever you prefer. I thought that Gary and I would very briefly speculate about what could probably happen with part 2.
Here's what I can say about The Last of Us Part 2. I'm just going to get this out of the way quickly.
Mhm.
I didn't see the spoilers. I didn't see the leaks. I've read about the controversy surrounding it. I'm going to say this right now, and this is one thing that everybody should do because it is the smart and logical thing to do.
Yes.
And that is to keep your standards high, ignore the fucking bullshit that's being said. Don't lose your high anticipation just because there were spoilers leaked. Even if you did see it, just if it's like maybe like one little thing that's not really much of a big deal out of a 90-minute playthrough or 90-minute something, whatever it was. The game itself is like, what is it, 30 to 40 hours?
20-30 hour game, yeah, 20-30 hour.
30-hour gameplay, so it's gonna be a long gameplay. So within that time span of whatever was shown, it's basically the bottom of the barrel that is just not even being scratched yet.
I will say this really quick. Judging a 20-30 hour game based off of 90 minutes of footage is just completely asinine. There's really no sense of doing it. But otherwise, I have a lot of theories as to what's going to happen in the game. I feel like a character might bite the dust, but we'll see.
I think you may know who.
Yeah, but I cannot wait to see what they do with part 2. I'm excited as can be to finally get my hands on this game and hopefully play. I mean, my expectations are moderate because I'm not trying to keep it way too high. I don't want to set myself a disappointment, but because all I want is a good sequel to an amazing game. That's all I want.
There's about maybe 2 or 3 things that I'm expecting. The first thing is, I've already saw when Ellie gave Riley a little kiss. I want to see a little bit more of a romance. I want to see the story surround a little bit more within Ellie's personal romance life.
As do I.
I personally think that there is going to be something there, that she's going to meet a character that's going to signify a specific spark in her, that she's going to grow a personal relationship with, that's going to help her problems. I want to see a nice little relationship in that. I want that same aspect in The Last of Us in terms of the gameplay with the crafting, the accuracy of the weapons, the stealth along the exploration. I want to see those aspects in the game as well, because I personally think you don't really need to change that terms of aspect with gameplay. I don't think that is good with.
All I want with that, I just want all those aspects doubled or even tripled down, like improved and made even. That's all I want.
I do have anticipation for it, but is it like excitement anticipation? No, it's more of a calm interest anticipation where you just want to see what's going to transpire and how you want things to happen in a way. So in a way, I have no basic predictions for this game.
Same.
I'm going to go in the smart way again. Blind. Not knowing a fucking thing.
Alrighty guys, so that is going to do it for Gary and I's review of The Last of Us, the DLC Left Behind, and also our very brief speculation for part 2. And that is going to wrap it up. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed our review of The Last of Us along with the Left Behind DLC and our little speculation. Also, I want to thank Mr. Garrison, my Garrett Bear, for joining me in this review. And Gary, where can they find you out there on YouTube and social media?
You can find me on the NG2C network, and you can find me on Mr. Garrison 96.
If you guys want to follow any of us on social media, go to the link in the description. That'll have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I'm also on Snapchat and Stardust. So if you guys want to follow Gary and I on all those social media platforms, the links and the usernames are in the description below. And I hope y'all enjoyed the review once again. If you did, hit that like button. Also subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell whenever a new video from us goes live. And if you'd like to see any of my previous 2 reviews, please click out there to the left or right side of the screen. And of course, until the next review, we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy Last of Us, guys. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this one.